welcome to the special Vlogmas series of my Live Talk podcast, The Ivory Tower Be Ivory, the show that talks about the dark, unpolished, secret side of higher education. I'm your host, Dr. V, former college professor turned digital creator and full-time entrepreneur. If you want the Cliff Notes version of how to make a transition in your life or how to reinvent yourself, check out my complimentary life class at drvernitaglenwhite.com/start-here. In today's episode, we'll discuss the ins and outs of an article I read on Inside Higher Ed. University of Chicago postpones courses on whiteness. Be sure to listen all the way through to the end. You will hear some great offers, and you will be supporting me by boosting the watch time. I would also appreciate your support by hitting 3 buttons: the like, the subscribe, and the share if something sparked you to do so. And remember, it is free. Sometimes I do have guests on my Live Talk podcast, and you can watch them on my playlist, From Women Who Vibe, and the playlist Resume to Reinvention, located on my channel. However, in this series, it'll just be you and me for Vlogmas. The Ivory Tower Be Ivory is a special Vlogmas series brought to you by Brilliance, my e-commerce shop, and let's hear a word from our sponsor. I got into the e-commerce wellness space when I was working as a college professor for several reasons. I wanted a high-quality way to take care of my body when I was traveling to different conferences, speaking, and doing consultant work. I wasn't always eating or sleeping well, and I knew I couldn't keep this up for long before doing some serious damage to my body. The second reason I got into e-commerce was to be able to share with others who trusted me and valued my opinion. I wanted my friends and family to be healthy and also support the environment with natural products. The final reason I got into social sharing in e-commerce was to earn additional income and to help others do the same. I figured since I bought similar products in the past, why not get paid for using them now? I also wanted to help others find a fun and exciting way to earn additional income by sharing products they were going to use anyway. Through Brilliant Wellness, we offer a variety of clean living wellness products such as liquid collagen, our infamous fat-burning pudding, smart coffee, and all things gut health. Also, a variety of household and self-care products. Many of our products are award-winning, high-quality, plant-based, plant-derived, or as clean as they can possibly be. First-time customers get $10 off their first purchase, and they can also get $10 in Live Clean credits to share the love with someone else. The best value is signing up for Smart Ship to save it up to an extra 15% every month. I love Smart Ship because unlike any other subscriptions, you get a chance to change your order every single month without being stuck with the same products. I can go on and on about these items, but check them out for yourself by visiting drvernitaglenwhite.com/wellness or click the description below and see the show notes for more information. All right, welcome back. So if you don't know anything about the University of Chicago, it is really known for, it's known for a lot of things. I know it for its commitment to academic freedom. You can professor autonomy, teacher autonomy, and things like that. But people have wanted this course called Whiteness, and it's like, whoa, we don't think y'all should have that course. And the professors are like, well, why not? This is the type of institution that, we apply to, we work for. We're known for pushing the envelope and, pretty much doing what we want to do. What is the problem now? So let me read you this statement that the University of Chicago put out. It says, as articulated in the Chicago Principles, the University of Chicago is deeply committed to upholding the values of academic freedom, the free expression of ideas, and the ability of faculty and students to express a wide range of views and to contest the ideas that they oppose. The university statement also says, we believe universities have an important role as places where novel ideas can be proposed, tested, and debated, and where diverse perspectives, experiences, individuals, and ideas inform and stimulate intellectual exchange, challenge, and engagement. Now, years ago, I applied to work at the University of Chicago because of a statement like this. And I talked about this somewhere in one of those videos where when you're applying as a professor, you have to do a teaching philosophy and a research statement, and then whatever other whatever other statements they want, and sometimes they include a diversity statement. That's what I was about to say. I believe the University of Chicago only wanted my teaching philosophy and my research statement. Now, I didn't hear back from them because it was some other stuff that was happening with some people who were writing my letters of recommendation, but I'm pretty sure I would have done well at the University of Chicago. They are a place, like I said, to where from what I gathered and what I researched at the time, they were in a place where they did welcome all types of ideas and things like that. And that's what you want at a university. In my opinion, I do think some of the academic freedom and the freedom to express yourself is getting lost. I may not agree with everything professors say, back then they were my colleagues. I may not agree with everything they say, but that's part of being in higher education. You get to have a thought, have an original thought, an opinion, an idea. Then you get to go research said thought and have supporting statements and facts to back you up. That's what you learn as you're writing your dissertation. That's what you learn when you are a true researcher. The other part to that is a lot of these universities are still in the philosophical studies where it's all about critical thinking and thought of the mind and diverse perspectives, not so much of learn this skill, do this, and go out and produce that in the world. And I think people forget that sometimes. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying that I agree with everything that people say, but a few videos ago or episodes ago, I shared that certain professors were being fired for saying their thoughts, but then they had to rehire them because it's like, what did they really do that was wrong? And I believe, as long as you're not harming students, then, or putting students down, then you should be able to say what you want to say as it relates to thinking, thought, issues in the world, and having a conversation. Now, it doesn't always go that way because some students are afraid to speak up. Some professors are afraid to speak up because it's like, well, you can't say this or you can't say that. And I do believe that this era that we're in is a little bit soft. People should be able to say what they want to say as long as they're not harming students. Now, if they make people uncomfortable, then they're doing their job. And I believe a little bit of I believe that has been taken out of context. Like, well, I feel uncomfortable. Well, that means you're offended. But did I really harm you by what I said? So that's what I want to say on that part. I remember, and the reason why I'm talking about this because the professors planned this course, and the process of creating a course, it doesn't just come out of thin air. Professors create courses. The curriculum, like if you went to college, the classrooms that you sat in, somebody sat there and mapped all of that out. Like a human. And then the committee came together and looked at it. It's like, does this align to what we want as a university? Let's look at, well, what will the students gain from it? What's the point of this class? Will, you know, either it'll help students get jobs or it'll make them a more well-rounded student. So it goes through a committee, it goes through a process, then it has to be approved. Sometimes it could take up to a year or more for a course to be approved. I know because I wrote a course at the university where I previously worked, and I had to map out everything, show a need for it, show a gap, show why it's important, show who it was for, who would be able to take it, who was not for. So I'm really proud of myself for being able to do that. So because not a lot of professors can say, I created a course. So these professors, it's not like they had this idea and they went ahead and taught it in the classrooms. They actually went through to teach it, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the reason why I want to talk to you about that process and courses is that all students aren't required to take every course. Now, this course is called Whiteness. And I'll get to that in a minute. But for people to be in an uproar about that, it's interesting because it's like, why aren't you in an uproar for students to actually take more diverse classes? And I know sometimes I read an article somewhere about, I think it's attached to this one, but I won't get too much into that story, about they don't understand. I think something went to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court justice, and some of them were like, well, we hear the word diversity pushed around a lot, but we don't really know what that means. And I believe that's true. A lot of people don't know what diversity is. And a couple of episodes ago, I talked to you about the board of trustee member who was like, oh, diversity is such a dirty word, or we just need to be focused on diversity of thought, like different thinking. But diversity also comes from the experience of a person has from their experiences growing up, their family, their ethnicities, their racial backgrounds. All of that is part of diversity, so it's not the same. So they probably need to have another word like homogeneous or heterogeneous, things like that. So it's really just a different, group, different way of thinking. I remember when I found out that I was like, well, why don't our students take a class on multiculturalism or diversity and things like that. And again, I'm saying diversity, and the more I think about this, like I understand why people don't like that word, but for the sake of me not knowing what else to insert there, I'm going to say diversity. And they didn't have to. And I was like, well, these students are going into working with other people that don't always look like them. So they need to have some kind of frame of reference as to what a child that's not white experiences in the classroom, or what goes on, in their home life and what they bring to the classroom, because they don't shut off their background. They don't shut off how they're raised when they're coming to the background. There's a lot of cultural things to be understood. Not saying that you would get everything right, but at least you will understand. So these students who were education majors did not have to take the diversity class that we had to offer. And I thought that was ridiculous. And so something as simple as if a student doesn't look you in the eye, and I know in American culture, it's like, you better look at me, that's respect. But in a lot of other cultures, they don't look at adults. That's a form of disrespect if I look you in the eye. And I know that's like an old school version, but those are things that still happen. And those are the root of a lot of situations that happen when teachers or professors get in altercations with students or have challenges with students. The start was they disrespected me because they wouldn't look at me. And so I just want to give you a little bit of context of the challenges it can take to create a course. And then, like, not all students have to take the course. And then sometimes all students aren't required unless you know how to do it. Like, I made my course so it can have weight. I learned how to make my course like an alphabet course to where it was a requirement, but that's another story for another day. So I'm not sure if this is what these professors did, but there are ways to make your course required. So this is also a big deal because people are like, well, the class is called Whiteness, but do you realize, it's a deeper term. I think it's a longer name than Whiteness, but it really is about whiteness. Like, whiteness is in the title. But some of these professors were arguing that, do you realize that most of the courses that are being taught in institutions are on whiteness? They talk about whiteness. And I was like, that is true. I was a K-12 teacher and I taught mathematics. Guess who were the mathematicians we were talking about? Dead white men. And sure, they were European, they were European. They're not like United States white, but they were still white men. And then I did research where I had to find out, like, the Egyptian the Egyptian number system. I went into Black mathematicians. I went into women mathematicians to teach my students, like, this math is global. It's not just it wasn't just from this one particular type of person. But if you don't have a professor or a teacher that's willing to do that, if you just take the textbooks for what they say and who they name these formulas after, you're going to think that it's just all invented by old white men. Now, going into talking about education, when I was a college professor and I did have to teach the course on history of education, or pedagogy in general in education is a form of psychology, because education is a mixture of different disciplines that a lot of people don't talk about, but whatever. Education is highly influenced by psychology. And who are a lot of the psychologists that we learn about? Old white men, dead white men. So honestly, if you don't have a professor to do that extra research, all the classes are about whiteness, right? So these professors want to say, but it's not just about that. We're not talking about white privilege or anything like that. They had an interesting perspective that I actually really understood, but they were getting backlash for saying what they said. And I'll share that with you right after our sponsor. We all have some sort of relationship with money. Some love it, some fear it, some hate it, and some enjoy it, while others see it for what it really is, a tool. I've been in each one of these categories before, but now I can say that I know money is a tool that works for me, and I enjoy telling it what to do. However, it hasn't always been this way. I've always been a great saver and budgeter, but when I became a dualpreneur and then later a full-time entrepreneur, I needed to shift how I thought about money. I no longer had a salary to rely on. I had to start seeing myself as a magnet to money, whether it was going back to a job or staying in my own business. I had to unlearn and learn a lot about money in this new space. I'm grateful for Dr. Tracy, who has been my business coach and now my secret money mindset whisperer. Yes, a mouthful. We have a tight community, but it would be selfish of me not to share this amazing experience. Dr. Tracy is a living example of how money truly is a vibe. Check out her membership using my affiliate link below. I encourage people to go all in for at least 90 days, and then you get to decide if you want to keep going. But this isn't your average community. Dr. Tracy gives so much practical and energetic knowledge that you can't help but to shift your mindset and your relationship with money. Well, if you're open, of course. Check out the Money Mindset membership, and I can't wait to see you on the other side. All right, welcome back. So these professors were saying that a lot of times when students learn about whiteness or other cultures, they're portrayed as the white devils. A lot of white guilt, and no one really says anything if there's a course about the civil rights or African studies or African American studies or Black culture or things like that. So the fact that they want to put whiteness in the title, why can't they do that? And some people said for the reasons that I said earlier, because all your classes are about whiteness. But in this day and age, I am open for any class as long as it doesn't promote hate. And that can go for Black African American or African study classes to where they could. I don't know. I mean, none of my classes where it was an open dialogue when I took African studies course in undergrad. But you do get some places where some professors, let me go back. I'm okay with them having a class to talk about. One of the things was what does it mean to be white in the United States? And we have to remember, colleges have been around for centuries. These are a new breed of children that are coming up. It's a whole new breed. Even when I was going through it, things should have changed then. But it's like sometimes you get education is so rooted and deeply rooted and traditional to where they want to be stuck, and it's hard for them, and I'm saying as a whole, as a system, to change, because it's easier. Well, let me just pick this up instead of really going out there and let's tackling these new what's happening in society right now. So this course wanted to talk about, so many people were feeling this white guilt, like everybody got to apologize. And it's like, well, I didn't own slaves. My family didn't own slaves. Why should I feel guilty about certain things? Or what is this white privilege really about? And they're saying that not all white people experience white privilege like that. And I remember when I used to do workshops on diversity, equity, inclusion, and I did this thing called the privilege walk because it was a video and I wanted to show them. And I was like, you know what? I don't always agree with videos like that, because there are a lot of Black people who, and I said, like, there is a Black privilege, and don't take that too far. Like, I mean, I know what's real out there, but there is and some people disagree with me, but I was like, whatever. There are a lot of Black people that come from 2-parent households, status, money, wealth. They didn't start from the bottom. They don't know what it's like to be struggled. All Black people aren't from the hood. They don't know that story. But then there are a lot of white people who were like, no, I was in the trailer park. I was on government assistance. I didn't have my dad around and things like that. But no one really talks about that. It's always to the opposite ends of the spectrum. So this class, what they were saying, they want to just dig a little deeper in that. One, not all white people had this privilege. Not all white people are horrible. But at the same time, let's talk about how we move forward and not forgetting the past. And that's one thing that they said, we're not discounting history, but can you teach history without making people feel like, oh my gosh, I hate being white, right? And I was like, I do get that, because for me, yes, I think it's important for us to know about slavery and the hardships and the systems and things that were put in place purposely to keep Black people from advancing. However, on the other side of that, if we're going to talk about African people, and since we were brought up, dragged over, sold over, however you want to say it, talk about how a lot of those tribes were wealthy tribes. They were kings and queens, and they had their own, ecosystems and e-commerce, and they came from, they were knowledgeable, they were smart. Everybody went out there, in the bush, you know. So it's like, you got to tell the whole thing if you're gonna talk about it. The other part is sometimes as a black person, and when people always talk about the system and the slavery, again, I'm not discounting because I have been discriminated against, but then I've also, the same skin, the same body, I've also been placed in situations where I probably wouldn't have gotten into those situations if I didn't look like me. And I know some of my faculty members used to be jealous about that, because they're thinking, well, I'm white, I'm here. Well, how come she gets to? Because that's a privilege of being a minority at times. But then I have to think about, and I'm going back to a video that I just released about the new president of Harvard, and her parents came over as Haitian immigrants. So they're still black, right? They don't identify as African American, but they're still black. So that's why I use the term Black American. If you can get a lot of Black Americans or Black people to come over in the United States and succeed, it's kind of like we can't keep holding on to this, to the system keeping me down. Again, I'm not discounting because the system is there, but then there are ways to overcome and succeed, because if it was all about that, then there would be no successful Black people. All right. So back to the course. They were saying that no one says that we can't teach about the Holocaust, which is, one particular time talking about one particular group of people. And again, I talked about the civil rights and the African studies. So why can't we have this class? And it's not about preserving the white race, because you do have people that want that. Hence why the Ivory Tower, they do want to preserve that. But I do believe that there are enough people who are coming up with experiences, who are open, are like, one, we need to stop making all white people feel guilty. And two, can we actually talk to students about what's really going on now in society? And I was like, I get that. As long as it's open, I get that. I will take a class on whiteness, just like I enjoyed when there were white students when I was in undergrad in our African studies class, And what's interesting? There are, at one point in time, the leading researcher on Black history, or I can't know the exact title, on diversity or something like that, was a white woman. Do you know a lot of white people actually study Black history, African culture, African American culture, if you want to use that phrase? So it's like, well, why can't other people study really white men? Anyway, I'm getting too deep. The point of this is, don't silence us, especially if we've shown you the need. We've done all the things that we're supposed to do, because what they could have done is just slapped in the different type of label on the course and taught it anyway. And that's what a lot of people do. They're going to get their ideals and ideologies out into the classroom, and they just have a different title. You can be in the class. I'm looking around my office to see if I can come up with the title: creating creative writing for wholeness and equity. I don't know. Just saw a bunch of books. And that classroom can talk about the Ku Klux Klan. But if you know how to do these are the objectives, these are the topics, and this, that, and the other, when you get in there and behind the closed doors or online and the course has been approved, you can teach what you want to teach. So people are saying, like, we're already having this issue in K-12 about being taught what's being taught. And I was like, okay, I can get that. I can understand the fight behind K-12. That's a different situation about curriculum and what should be taught and all of that. But when you get to universities, especially universities were designed to be different for specific reasons. A lot of universities were created based on the area that they were in, so they can support the communities that they were in. That's why you have to go, maybe to the Northeast to have a major in that, or the leading person is out in the Midwest for that, or you come to the South to learn this about, to learn this, that, and the other. So all universities don't all have the same degrees for different reasons. They all are not public for a reason. Some of them are liberal arts for a reason. Some of them are research ones for a reason. So I do understand what these faculty members are saying. Like, don't, especially for a university like University of Chicago, like we're supposed, that's what you want us to do. And now that we're doing it, we're getting backlash because it's about whiteness, and people immediately jump to, oh, you're just going to be talking about white privilege and white supremacy. So I'll leave that there. We'll take this last message from our sponsors. Dear game changer, life changer, mover and shaker, you have the positions, titles, degrees, and status. You've done all the things, and you've done pretty well for yourself. You're already good. You're already great. Now it's time to be phenomenal. Are you ready to design a bigger life than you can imagine? Are you ready to embrace a new, better side of yourself? Are you ready to expand what's impossible and live bolder? Well, it's time to activate your untapped superpowers. It's time to cultivate what's already inside of you, and it's time to elevate your potential and possibilities. Welcome to the School of Brilliance with Dr. V, a high-end advice company specializing in life transformation for the powerful professional, the elite entrepreneur, and the overall high achiever. We help you create dynamic and custom life plans, business curriculum, or a combination of both to help you expand and dominate every area of your life. Dr. V's mission is to help you embrace your brilliance and expand your life by operating in your true identity. Learn the best ways to work with Dr. V and her brilliant team by visiting drvernitaglenwhite.com/workwithme, or check the description and show notes below. Let me know your thoughts about the courses. Like I said, I understand both sides, and I do think that a lot of courses people just need to be in there to see what's really going on. But I do embrace academic freedom, academic free speech, and autonomy in the classroom, because that's why I decided to become a professor and not a regular classroom teacher, or why I didn't go in the private sector. So I'll leave that right there. Again, let me know your thoughts below. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and also share if you are so moved to do so. And whether you're ending your day or beginning your day, remember to be well, be empowered, be bold, and be brilliant. Until next time, bye.